Welcome everybody, this is How to English, Teach and Learn with Gav and Em.
It's a podcast about teaching and learning English as a foreign language.
All opinions stated are personal and preferences? And references will be given when necessary.
And we're back again. This is episode 11. Yes, 11 of season 6 of Gav and Em's How to English pod. Are you ready for the letter of this episode, Em?
Yes, I am, Gav. If I work that out correctly, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, we are on K.
Letter K. K for not very much, as it turns out.
I thought J was hard, but K was harder. I didn't get a lot, to be honest, for K, but what I have got is gold. Maybe it's okay. What I lack in quantity, I make up for in quality.
I'm very happy to hear that, Em, because I also struggled with words relating to K in the alphabet.
Shall we start with what we have?
Unless you want to do a little preamble and then we can fill the rest of the episode.
That was the end of the preamble. Now we've preambled enough.
Should we get underway?
Let's start. I've written keeping up, and I mean a lot when I say keeping up, Gav, because as a teacher, you have to keep up.
Keep up with changes and developments in the teaching and learning sphere?
Absolutely. Keeping up with learning methodologies, new tech, new books. All of that is really important. How do you keep up?
I have a look online and see what other teachers are doing. There might be some articles you can read, some blogs. There might be some YouTube videos showing you what's the latest development within the field.
Google the top TEFL influencers. Go to Spotify, look at the top TEFL pods on there. I'm sure we're in there somewhere, actually. But yeah, look at what people are talking about. Listen to different people from different places. Not just one country, talking about different teaching methods from lots of different places will really help your teaching style, I think. And the same for students. They should be aware of what courses are available, what new learning methods there are. If they don't like a certain style, maybe there's something new that's come along. So yeah, keeping up with the latest trends, but also keeping up with what's going on in your lesson as a teacher is quite demanding as well.
Does that mean following your lesson plan very carefully and ticking off each part that you've completed?
It could be that, but it could also be keeping up with all the things that the students throw at you or the things that happen that make it very difficult. Can I give you a couple of examples?
Yes, I would like that because I'm not completely sure what you mean, Em.
So, for example, I've got a new group. I've asked them what they want to talk about. This is an online lesson. They've all written in the chat what they're interested in.
Or they've shouted out from their seats and you've written up on the board.
Or that. So I've got a kind of idea that 4 of them are really interested in music. The other 2 haven't mentioned music. They're interested in sports and family and that kind of thing. So as a first lesson after that feedback, I thought
Is that the second lesson?
It's the second lesson, in fact.
The first lesson.
If you want to be technical. Yeah. I planned a music lesson thinking, well, 4 out of 6 are going to be really happy with that.
As long as those 4 actually come to the lesson.
Well, you're getting ahead of me now, Gav.
Sorry,
because the 2 that turned up, you can guess which 2 they were.
Were they the sporty ones?
The sporty ones turned up. And there's me ready with my music lesson, and they're not interested in music. So suddenly, oh, I should have planned 2 lessons. I need to have planned the sports lesson as well.
Or you could have planned the family one, because I'm sure everybody's happy to talk about that.
Well, yeah, that was also another option. But yeah, Gav, that's one example.
Em, can we dig a little deeper on that first example? If 2 students arrive, they're not interested in the topic, how do you pivot to a new topic?
You have to ask them what they're interested in, I think, beforehand. And with that knowledge, you can then have, and what I should have done is have a few things ready that had different topics. And maybe, yeah, just go to ChatGPT and ask it to write you 20 questions about sports. Bingo.
Is that what you mean by planning a lesson? To have ChatGPT write 20 questions for you about that topic?
Well, that would be a very on-the-fly lesson, I think, in the situation I'm describing. That would suffice. But I would still want lots of vocabulary. I'd want photos.
I'd want a lot of photos and pictures of various different equipment that I might use when I'm playing sports like a shuttlecock, a tennis ball, a bowling ball with 3 holes, etc., for my students.
That's right. And if you're good at those sort of spontaneous lessons, you're okay. But yeah, you have to keep up with it.
You might find a quiz online which would be quite useful, but you have to check it first because there might be some bad words in there, so be careful.
All that is good advice before the lesson.
Bring on your storm of a second situation.
Well, I've got another group that's just started. This time there's 10 new students.
10?
Yeah, big group. And then you go to share your screen because you've got your worksheet already on the screen. You're sharing it and they're all interested because you've checked and you think, wow, this is great. This is working.
That's a topic that everybody's going to enjoy, like pets, for example.
And then you share and you realise suddenly all the cameras have minimised and you can on Teams see a line of people, but there's only 4 cameras that are visible.
That is very true, and I often forget about all the people who I can't see.
So you've got to be aware of the 6 other people that are in the meeting.
How do you keep up with that, Em?
I can't. And the other thing is, Gav, all their names have disappeared. When you minimise, when they're on the big screen, you can see their names, and that's great because you can easily say, oh, this person and this person. When you've got them minimised because you're sharing, the names disappear.
Oh.
So you have to then, in the first lesson, after meeting these people for maybe 10 minutes, remember their voices so that when they say something, you can say, yes, well done, that person, and use their name.
Or you can nominate one student to choose the next student who answers the question, and then that student nominates the next student to answer the question, and then you can just sit back.
That's a good strategy because they can still see each other's names, which is a nice thing to remember. But yeah, you've got to keep up with names, so write them all down when you first meet them. So you can at least, if you can't see them, you can at least shout the name and hopefully they'll shout back.
And if they're in the classroom, give them name badges?
Yeah, that's also good. I think it's definitely an online issue. When you minimise, you don't see their faces. And our final example for you, Gav, is keeping up with what is important in a lesson in a very spontaneous way. If you're having a conversation with a student and they tell you something like, oh, I had an accident, I broke my arm, and as a result I had to stay in bed for a month and recover. And during that month, I just binge watched Friends. What follow-up question would you ask that student?
Did you enjoy the show?
Right, exactly. So I would focus on that too. I would ask, did you enjoy the show? Who's your favourite Friends character? Why? Wouldn't.
Em,
yeah.
Somebody might want to focus on the broken arm.
I would say that's possibly the wrong thing to focus on. And that's
Why?
I know that's a strong word. Partly because it's the negative part of the story. Not to say I wouldn't ask, but I would definitely start with, oh, that's really interesting. You must love Friends now because you've watched all of them. And
Not, oh, I'm sorry to hear you broke your arm. But on the positive side, you got to watch a lot of telly.
yeah, well, I think it depends on the context as well. If they say it out of nowhere, then you can think which one do you want to focus on. But if you're having a conversation, which is what I should have introduced this as, if you're having a conversation about TV programs and somebody in the middle of that conversation said, oh, by the way, I watched Friends because I broke my arm, I would say focus on the program, not the broken arm.
I almost completely agree with you, but that might be a nice opportunity to talk about illnesses and other ailments.
Well, then you go off in a different direction. But what I'm saying, Gav, is there's so much to think about to keep up. You know, you've got to be really thinking about everything. And do you want to go down that road?
Keep on track or suddenly change to something different?
Yeah, keep on track, keep up, keep your head above water, all those keep phrases.
And you can't control the student, so maybe another student will ask about the broken arm rather than how much did you enjoy the show?
Keeping control is also a keep word. Keep is a good K word. We could talk about that too. Keeping control, keeping up, keeping
their attention.
Keeping their attention. Ooh, yeah.
I think we might find some more keeps come up during this episode.
Good. Okay, I'll pass it over to you now. You've got the K baton.
Thanks, Em. Am I in the spotlight for the next K topic?
Well, I was using a relay metaphor, but if you like, the spotlight's on you now. Okay, we'll go with that one.
My K topic is knowledge gaps and how to spot them.
Good topic.
And my question to myself often is, why do my students keep making the same mistakes?
Mm-hmm.
Can you help me with this, Em? I do not understand. They make a mistake, I correct the mistake, they make the mistake again later.
Could be a few things.
Why are they not fixed? If you use superglue, it fixes everything.
They are fixed in the sense that they are fixed errors. They are fossilized errors. They are deep down errors. Things they've learned at the very beginning of their English learning journey and they've just assumed is the right way to say it.
Do you mean I might need to teach it more than once before they can retain that information?
Well, they've already been taught it, but at some point they've made a mistake. Could be that they've been taught wrong. It could be they've understood it wrong. They could have just misremembered it, and then they're using it in a way that's not right.
Or learnt a new rule and then suddenly applied that to every other grammar point they've learnt since.
Yeah. There's a lot of different kinds of errors. I think you have to be persistent. You don't want to let it slide because that's probably what teachers have done in the past and that's why they're still making that mistake.
And it could be stopping their progress.
I don't know if it is always stopping progress, but you're right. If they've misunderstood a grammar point, maybe that would affect the rest of their tense understanding.
And it could be quite distracting during a conversation, or maybe if they're emailing somebody and they keep slipping up.
Yeah.
So their knowledge gaps might be in grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, their skills, like listening or speaking, or it could be a cultural understanding issue.
All of those.
Would you like some examples of where your students might have knowledge gaps? Knowledge, that's a silent K, by the way, in case you thought that was an N word. But no, it's K, because the episode is K.
I would love some examples, Gav.
Here we go. A grammar gap may be, yesterday I go to the supermarket.
Which needs to be yesterday I went to the supermarket. And a lot of my students use past tenses for everything except go. I don't know why that is.
Well, it's irregular. Maybe it's an odd one for them.
But they use it in the present. They say exactly what you've just said. They don't say I goed, which you would say maybe if you're applying it to the past, you would make that mistake. But they get everything else right. I was there, I saw this, I did that, and then suddenly go. Go is always just go.
That is odd.
Give us another example, Gav.
A vocabulary gap might be, she has a thing for cooking.
What's wrong with that?
Well, they don't know the word, so they use the word thing.
Oh, you mean like instead of spoon or something?
Yeah, not like she's really into.
I was thinking that's fine. She's got a thing for cooking. I've got a thing for tea. You know, it's my thing. Ah, you mean... Well, I don't think that's too bad.
I am very interesting in sports.
Yeah, common error. Not interesting, but interested in sports. But I think sports are very interesting. It's just worth reminding them if they're talking about their feelings, it's ED. And if it's an external influence, then it's ING.
They are both adjectives. How confusing is English, Em?
And I had a student once who was absolutely baffled that they were both adjectives. And he was convinced that they were verbs. So that is a good example of where you said about they've learned it completely wrong and then it's really affecting their understanding of the whole concept because it wouldn't really make any sense if you thought of it as a verb.
That is very clearly explained. A pronunciation knowledge gap could be walk, which sounds like work. I walk in this office.
Yeah, I've heard that too. What was the idea? How to correct it? It's tricky. I usually just do little fingers walking. Like, walked in the office? Where did you go? But I don't know how you fix it really, apart from just repetition.
Is this an issue with L or R sounds? Walk and work? Maybe we could do some exercises to practice our L sounds and our R sounds?
Some minimal pairs. Yeah. An intensive dive into the sound of that. Could work.
It could work.
Could work.
It's a much longer vowel sound as well. Work.
Walk, work. Yeah. Your mouth is different as well.
We could be looking at skills gaps.
Like what?
Maybe if you said to your students, do you want to grab some lunch now?
Yeah.
They may not recognise, do you want to? If you say, do you wanna?
Aha, connected speech. Yes. I did that lesson today, actually, asking students to write down word for word what I was saying with very connected sentences. And they struggled. It's very hard for them. But I think they get a feeling for the idea that you're trying to say, but it might be worth analysing it a bit.
And maybe practising with some pronunciation as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You need them to copy you, and then usually they'll say, oh, there's a song I know that's got that kind of pronunciation, and you think, yeah. And then you can say, yeah, exactly. It's everywhere.
That's a really good tip. So they probably already know it, but maybe they just didn't put it together.
And a cultural gap?
A cultural understanding gap may include receiving an email that simply says, give me the report today.
Too direct, is that what you mean?
It sounds rude in a workplace.
Yes, you have to explain to your students. That would sound very aggressive and angry. And is that the feeling you want your colleagues to have from you? Because maybe it is, but maybe not.
You might not get that report today if you talk to people that way. Or perhaps you want a refund and you write to the company, dear sir or madam, I want a refund.
Yeah, tactful. Yeah, you need to be tactful.
Ways to address these gaps could be mini tests, dictations, gap fills. You might want to focus on self-reflection journals. I think we mentioned those last time.
We did.
Or students could write their own common mistakes list.
Ooh, that's a good one if they recognise them.
Well, I will help them recognise them, Em, and so will you.
Yeah, well, that is a good strategy because then it really highlights their mistakes and brings them awareness that maybe they wouldn't have had before. And every time they say it wrong, they need to check their notes and think, oh, yeah, there we go, it's wrong again.
As we said, simply showing somebody something is not teaching them that thing. You might need to really point out where the errors are.
Yeah, which brings me to my next K, actually. The difference between knowledge, which you've already mentioned about knowledge gaps.
K for knowledge.
The K for knowledge. The difference between knowledge and information. What's the difference?
One starts with a K and the other one starts with an I.
Yes. You could say that information is the raw data and knowledge is the understanding of the data.
That's interesting. I can imagine some information written on an article, maybe in a report, somewhere, but that knowledge is deep inside my brain if I really understood it.
Well, you need to acquire the knowledge. You need to learn and you need to...
But knowledge lives inside my brain in my understanding of that information.
Nicely said. So we can give our students information. We often do that. We give them all this stuff that they can take away or that they can put in their notebooks, that they can use on their phones. We give them all the information, but do we really help them acquire the knowledge?
That's a very difficult question because I did find myself today saying, does everybody understand?
That's another very deep question, isn't it? Understanding, knowledge, information. I think understanding is on the road to knowledge, isn't it? You have to understand in order to remember, in which case you then have the knowledge, a long-term thing.
And if you're checking that your students have understood and have retained that knowledge, you can't simply say, do you get it?
No. And I think it's worth remembering, just because your lesson is jam-packed full of information and you're giving them all this stuff, it doesn't mean they're going to learn anything. And sometimes less is more. Maybe just focus on one or two things and get them to really learn that thing. Today I spent an hour and a half just on the word really.
Really?
Yeah, really, for showing interest.
An hour and a half?
We practiced it for 90 minutes.
Just saying the word really over and over again?
Well, it was a bit more than that, obviously. We did lots of talking, we did lots of conversation, but by the end of that lesson, I don't think my students are going to forget the meaning of really in the sense of showing interest to generate somebody to talk. And I decided that that was worth it because I really like students to say words like showing interest. Like, really?
That is a very useful and powerful word. So was it really as in, really? I'm surprised to hear that. Or was it really? That seems very serious and I am concerned about that.
It was all those. It was every tone of really. We tried. It was a spectrum of really, and it was fantastic. And by the end of the lesson, they sounded amazing. And I could have spent the whole lesson giving them all the other phrases. You know, there are what a pity and that's amazing and wow and uh-huh. But I decided really was enough.
It really was enough. My next KM is keeping calm and carrying on. This is the TEFL Teacher Edition.
Keep calm and carry on. Good advice.
And I was inspired by this quote from a Japanese metaphor between a teacher and student. You can't pour from an empty cup. What does that tell you, Em?
What does it tell me? Maybe don't push your students when they're tired? Is that what you mean?
That is a very good example.
Yeah, that's good. I like it. So just be aware of the energy. And if your students are not reacting in the right way, maybe you need a timeout. Maybe you need a little activity just to switch up the pace. Give them time just to not think, maybe, because if you've got a group, they don't all have to talk at the same time. They don't all have to be paying attention at the same time. Maybe just focus on some of the stronger students and get them talking together to give the others a bit of a break.
That's it. They might end up knackered.
With a K.
A silent K.
That's a very British word. I'm not sure anyone really knows that one outside of the UK, but okay, yes.
Let's have a look at our Keeping Calm and Carrying On TEFL Teacher Edition. Number 1, recognise the warning signs of burnout. Em, how can you as a teacher recognise those signs within yourself or possibly your students?
Yawning, lack of concentration, eyes heavy, just needing to sleep, wanting to put my head down on the desk.
Oh, you might be losing patience quickly.
Oh, getting irritable, yes.
Dreading classes that you usually enjoy.
Mm.
Feeling detached from your students or colleagues.
Yeah.
These are all examples of where you're suffering from burnout, Em.
Or they are. It's also the same for your students.
That's it. To avoid burnout, Em, you might want to use low energy lesson formats. Now, what would this be for you as a teacher?
I have got a go-to website, which is basically just a quiz generator, which is great.
Is that JetPunk?
It is JetPunk, but students are reading in English, they're understanding a lot of vocabulary, they're generating answers, they're thinking as a group. It's a great team-building activity. There's so many topics there that everybody's happy. If they can agree on which quiz, then that's also a bit of debate and arguing or give an opinion, agreeing, disagreeing. It's a bit of a meeting vibe. And as a teacher, you can just sit back and type for them if you need to, or you could get one of your students to share their screen and then they can type. Or if you're doing it in a classroom, you just get somebody at the computer typing into the screen.
Or up at the board. This sounds like student-led activities, Em, and that is a very good way for you to get your energy back.
And I don't do it very often, but there are times where you just might want to do that.
Sometimes that is necessary. You might also think about some TED Talks, show some clips, whatever keeps the students engaged and allows them to speak about that activity at the end.
It's a bit like giving a toddler an iPad. It's just, you know, you go over there and watch this for 10 minutes and then we'll come back and talk about it. And because you've already seen it, I recommend showing them something you've already watched. Because then you've already heard it, you can talk about it quite easily, and you can just have a really good chat about it afterwards.
I like that. Avoid over-planning or perfectionism.
Yeah, I do tell myself that will do. Just stop there. It's enough. And give yourself a break. Go and eat lunch. It's not going to get any better if you have another 5 minutes on it.
Very true. Reuse some old materials.
Good. I like that too.
Plan in blocks or routines to avoid decision fatigue.
Nice, like batch cooking at the weekend. Just box up that risotto for the week, yeah.
Share that risotto with the whole class. I did that the other day. I think I planned 4 lessons in about 60 minutes and I was very, very happy with them.
Wow, that's super planning.
It is.
Makes you feel really good as well when you've done it because you think, right, now I don't have to worry about it. It's all there, ready to go.
Some quick self-care tips for you, Em. Mini mindfulness.
Mini mindfulness.
1 minute before your class starts, sit and breathe. Desk snack box.
Nice.
Something that you enjoy that will fuel you.
Mm.
Stretch or walk,
Nice one.
even if it means going up and down the corridor for a few minutes. And a bit of music therapy.
Yeah, get your energy going. Something rousing.
Or possibly calming.
Or calming.
After a rather stressful lesson.
Nice.
Finally, build in some realistic boundaries.
Yes. Know your limits.
Tell your boss, no emails after 6 o'clock.
Oh, yeah. Good one.
Choose 1 day of the week for 0 prepping.
Mm-hmm.
And say no to any extra work.
That's a hard one sometimes, but yeah, if you're in the position to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But even if you decide not to set homework that week, which means you don't have to spend an extra couple of hours checking the homework later.
Mm-hmm. That's really good too. I like all those tips.
I'm happy to hear it. These are tips for avoiding burnout for you and possibly your students, because we're all going to suffer if the teacher's tired.
That brings me to my tip of the episode, Gav.
Tip of the episode.
And my K tip is kinesthetic learning.
Oh, I nearly chose that topic, but I decided that would be really difficult to explain on a podcast.
Well, I've got some examples of some exercises that are kinesthetic.
Is it about squeezing teddy bears?
Could be. I think it's important to remember that some people learn in different ways, and some people are very tactile and they like to touch things, and it can be not just squeezing teddy bears, but if you had, for example, a game which involved students putting their hands in a bag and identifying the thing in the bag, maybe a teddy bear could be one, but before they identify it, they say, oh, it's soft, it's fluffy, it's got arms, it's got eyes, it's a teddy bear.
It would be nice if our students spoke like that and didn't just pull it out and say, it's a teddy bear.
Well, you might have to set up the task, but that's a nice game. You've also got mime games, which is kinesthetic. You've got a word on a card and the student has to act it out.
Oh,
Others are guessing what they're doing.
that's another good example.
Snowballs, where you have questions on pieces of paper and you throw the pieces of paper around
Students
the room.
love doing that.
Absolutely love it. You can do questions, you can do descriptions of yourself. Could be physical, could be personality, and then everyone has to guess whose description they've got. It is a kinesthetic activity. Act out a story. One student's reading it, and the other students have to act out what's happening in the story.
Oh, I like that. We're going on a bear hunt today in my class. It was so much fun. Swish, swish, swish.
That's it, and whatever the movement of the tiger and whatever the move, you got to do all the acting. Kids love it as well, but I think adults like it too, depending on the story.
They certainly do.
Imagine like reading the plot of Kill Bill and then having to act it out.
Sounds very interesting.
That was just a spontaneous idea. And finally, a scavenger hunt, which could be a physical scavenger hunt where students have to run around finding things. If you say, find something that's red in your room, find something that's round, find something that's alive.
As long as they're careful when they're running, Em.
Yes, of course.
And you could do that online as well.
I was going to say you could also do a virtual scavenger hunt, which involves looking for pictures online and sharing with each other what they've found and talking about it.
That's it. Then they have to describe it to each other. So they're still using plenty of language. And don't forget to tell them to search using their favourite search portal in English.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
No cheating.
Very good.
My K of this episode, Em, to finish off episode K, is key language 4. Just very quickly, I'm going to give you a situation where...
key language 4, ... not like key language number 4, which is all about this topic. No, you mean key language for meetings or key language for...
You're already there, Em. I'm going to give you the situation. You're just going to give me 1 or 2 important sentences that we need our students to be able to produce. For example, key language for checking into a hotel.
I have a reservation. The name is... It's for... nights.
What's the Wi-Fi password, please?
Where's breakfast? Do you have a gym?
Key language for booking a restaurant in English.
I'd like a table for 5 people at 6 o'clock.
Can I have a window seat, please? Not next to the toilet again.
Yep. Do you have any vegan options or gluten-free options?
Can I have a menu that's not sticky? Key language for getting through immigration at an airport.
Yes, that is my bag. And I packed it myself. No, there are no sharp objects in my bag or firearms.
I'm on holiday for 2 weeks. I've come to visit a friend.
Is that really necessary? I don't know.
I'm not sure I would say that to the immigration officer.
No, maybe not that last one.
Key language for writing an argument essay in an exam.
Ooh. In this essay, I propose, or I plan to, or I will.
I will explore.
Nice. A strong argument in favour of this opinion is...
And in summary, Em?
In conclusion, there are valid points on both sides, but it is clear that... ...
Oh, I like all of those expressions. They are very useful for our exam writing students. And finally, key language for what to say in a lift, or if you're in America, elevator.
Which floor? Nice day. Busy?
I like all of your ideas, Em, but I think if it was me, I'd probably be completely silent.
But those aren't key phrases.
No, maybe I'm just practicing my culture.
Ah, awkward.
Em, we have been kind, knowledgeable, kooky, keen-eyed, kaleidoscopic, kinetic, kinesthetic, lots of know-how, keyboards, and kickstart.
Don't forget Stephen Krashen with a K. He's really good. If you want to read a good book about teaching, read Stephen Krashen's books. He talks about comprehensible input and acquisition over learning.
Sounds like fun evening bedtime reading.
He's a god of TEFL.
From one TEFL teacher to another, I will catch you next time on Gav and Em's How to English. Oh, did we mention coffee?
No, with a K. Coffee. ko-fi.com/howtoenglishpod
to send us some refreshing contributions towards the show. Bye for now.
Bye.